You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 86. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys. And with me as always is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. For this episode, we got another fun guest on the pod. His name is Brian Dennison, aka Cajun_cardboard on Instagram and Cajun Cardboard on YouTube. I'm sure many of you have seen his hobby content already because he's pretty prolific and definitely goes in depth with a lot of the hobby topics he's into, similar to us in the way that he speaks from both a collector and investor perspective. Anyway, we'll have that interview with Brian shortly, but first, off the top, I saw this interesting news release just today about a collaboration between Panini America and Reebok, essentially featuring a new line of Allen Iverson sneakers. And the news release says, quote, "The collection is championed by 3 Prizm parallel iterations of AI's historic question basketball shoe." All right, so if you've seen the photos of the shoes, they come in different colors and designs, and they're all branded with both the Panini America logo and the Reebok logo as well. So what do you think about this collab specifically? And then, how about generally about card companies doing business with more traditional retailers?
Well, one, I was a huge fan of those shoes. It was the questions that were huge when they originally released. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I looked at the article. I was kind of confused at what it actually entails. So you get Prizm cards with the purchase of like the apparel and sneakers. Is that what it is?
That's a good point. I forgot to mention. I think for some of the pairs of shoes, you can get a pack. I don't know.
And then there's like parallels. There's like, right. So for me, like I think it's pretty cool. Normally I would have said, "Oh, here's another gimmick. Here we go again." But maybe it's not the right player with AI in terms of. But I see the potential there. Because there is that lure of sneakers and iconic shoes as well, but I wouldn't say I'm completely sold on it, but I don't mind the idea, especially if you're getting a pair of shoes that could be a collectible, and then on top of that you're getting a pack of Prizm cards that are special towards the AI. You could pull, I think, Allen Iverson autos in there and stuff like that. So I do like the concept. And I could see this going even further with, what we talked about, like NFTs and stuff like that. But obviously we won't get into that. But didn't Panini do something with like Noir, the Noir brand? With
they had like a sneaker
spot.
I think it's called Sneaker Spotlight or something like that.
Right. So I don't know. I guess that's a little different because that was just in kind of like the set, and this is kind of with apparel and shoes. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think.
Yep.
Hyung, man, you're so nice. Because I'm about to.
I know you're gonna just lay into I know you're gonna trash it. Because that was the first impression I got. It's like, here's another gimmick. Yeah. And you know what? We're just gonna absolutely trash it. I actually read the article, John, and I was like, interesting.
Johnny only saw the photos. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I'm saying we spend money on opening packs, and it says you spend $140, you get a pair of shoes, and then you get a pack. So it's like at least you're getting the shoes, and then you get to rip for free, kind of, right? So. That's where I was looking at it.
It's just it's just way too like it's trash to me. It's complete trash. Like, number one, I think you're crossing over like 2 different markets and segments, right? I get that there are kind of like we've been talking about before. There are the quick flippers, sneakerheads, people who are looking for that quick buck. I think there has been some cross-culture mixing between sports cards and sneakers. And I mean, it was kind of inevitable, not just the money, but the interest in basketball and sports and whatnot, right? But I mean, this is just too much. I think Reebok is trying to take advantage of the surge in sports cards. Perhaps, the sneaker culture right now is at a standstill and it's lost a lot of its luster to things like sports cards and crypto and stuff like that. So I think they're just looking for creative ideas to try and capture some of this and jump on board. And I don't know. I think the execution, I don't know. Like for me, I think the execution is kind of weak. I get the shoes. Yeah, they look all right, but let's be real. I don't think sports card fans are looking for Reebok question shoes. Ask the three of us here, are we going to go out and buy these shoes? Definitely not. And I think on the sneaker culture side, they're not going to buy shoes with Panini's logo on it. Like that looks like, it's like going out and buying, Adidas shoes with the Lego logo on it. Like it just seems so, it's like very kiddish. It's not, I don't think it's something that like a real sneakerhead would take seriously. I could see me.
What about a Jordan, like a nice pair of Jordan, like a Jordan 3, Jordan 4 sneaker, and then you get a Panini Prizm and you can pull an elephant print Jordan, auto. Like, isn't that like sick? No,
trash, all trash.
If you get the shoes though, you get the shoes that you pay for it.
But then the shoes are going to be like
and then you get the
$400 retail. Like, that's ridiculous. I don't know. I hear, and it's Reebok. Like, I mean, if you're in sneaker culture, like Reebok is, they're at the bottom of the totem pole of liked brands that are, or hot brands, right? So yeah, I think this is kind of like a too little, too little too late into the hype. Yeah, I don't know. No good to me.
Okay. I guess we're not getting that Reebok sponsorship anymore.
Yeah.
But
I certainly
it's all good. But yeah, you know what? I hear both your points. I like the collaboration idea. I just don't think the right players are doing it now. To Johnny's point, Reebok isn't the one that should be doing it, and Panini America certainly, they're grasping onto straws. We're all expecting Fanatics to take over anyway. So the timing seems a little bit suspect. Maybe it was a deal that was, being discussed over the summer. So this was all done for a few months in the background. But, I looked at the shoes. I'm kind of with Johnny. The Panini America logo on it kind of cheapens the product a little bit. It looks like, nothing that I would wear. And I don't think any
definitely not what you would wear, Clark. I couldn't see you.
Yeah. And I think what I wear is just casual.
I think Panini's really like misunderstanding what their brand means to the sports card culture, right? Because like Panini as a brand in terms of what we're buying for sports cards means something, but I think Panini, like the logo and their imagery, I don't think that really means anything to you, the three of us here, right? Like, even though I love Topps Chrome, are you going to see me with like a Topps Chrome hat? Like, no, you're not, right?
I would rock a Topps Chrome hat. I would rock
maybe
a Topps
it's
Chrome
a bad
hat.
example.
Maybe not Topps. Yeah.
But you know what?
Maybe
but you kind of,
like a Panini Flux.
Exactly. Like we're not going out and trying to rock
Flux.
like a Panini t-shirt. I mean, the actual logo itself is not doing anything for us, right? It's more about the cards and the players and the whatever you're collecting, right? So I think they're just misunderstanding the power of their own brand, and thinking that if they just slap on the Panini onto like a Reebok shoe, it's going to be hot. It's going to be a hot item. But yeah, that's no bueno.
Fair enough. I just think that we're going to see more of these kind of collaborations, to tell you the truth, as the hobby grows, and then they're going to look for ways to make more money. Some of them might work out, others might not. But I think it's a net positive for the hobby, in my opinion. Even if it doesn't work out, it certainly brings attention to it anyway. All right, with that, let's go now to the interview we had with Brian. All right, we have another awesome guest on the pod today, and if you're a collector who's plugged into Instagram or YouTube for all your hobby news, you probably know Brian Dennison already, or at least have seen his content. He might be more familiar to you under his social media name, which is Cajun Cardboard. It makes total sense to me now, having just found out that Brian is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So on top of his 4 to 5 videos he puts out on his YouTube channel, he also creates content for Luca Nation Network. And he's also a real estate attorney, as well as owns a few other businesses, which we'll get to in a second. He's also a big-time set collector, having completed and sold the iconic 1986 Fleer PSA 10 set.
Wow.
And he still, wow is right. And he says he still's got 2 PSA 9 sets, as well as 3 PSA 8 sets. We'll also talk about that as well. That's pretty incredible. So we're looking forward to getting to know Brian a bit more on Cards to the Moon. So without further ado, Brian, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed listening to you guys, and like we were talking before we started hitting the record button, we got a lot in common. Like it's really cool when you see other people in the hobby that have so much in common with you. So I'm excited to join you guys tonight.
Glad to have you on. Yeah. So actually, the first question we always like to ask our guests is, the origin story of how you came into collecting. How did you get into the hobby? For a lot of us, we collected as kids and then got back into it as adults, in the last few years. I know, Brian, you returned to the hobby not once, but twice. So do you want to explain your hobby journey a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I got 3 origin stories. How exciting is that, right? The first one, I won't bore you. It was, probably similar to you guys. I was a little kid. I fell in love with collecting cards for the sake of collecting. There was no thought put into the value of the cards. I've got this weird set collector gene, like a lot of the people in the hobby that I'm sure you guys are friends with, and some of you may have the same gene where once I start something, I just need closure. I want to get to the end of it. And so early 80s, I'm 48 years old. So early 80s, I'm, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, whatever. I'm trying to put together, baseball cards, almost exclusively baseball cards in the 80s, because that's what everybody was doing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm collecting team sets and trying to collect the 1980 Topps set, no concern for condition or value or anything like that. And then did that until about 1990, and then girls and college and, anxiety and just all these other things that, take priority over, collecting cards. And plus it was the junk wax era, and it did start to fade a little bit. So I got out for almost a decade, came back in just in time for the LeBron, Wade, Melo boom, around 2000, came in, collected through 2004, just a little short 4-year window. And guys, then I started having kids, man. I have 7 kids. I'm married. My expenses exceeded my revenue at that time. So I've been working for, 15 years to try to catch up, and make more than I spend on those kids, educating them and feeding them and clothing them. And
sure.
And so came back in 2016 because I fell in love with this little skinny kid that I saw on some grainy video footage when I was preparing for my fantasy basketball draft. His name was Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I saw him, and I asked myself, I wonder if cards are still a thing, because I see something special in this kid. I'm going to go buy a hell of a lot of his cards if that's still a thing. And so it's funny, guys. I typed into eBay Topps Chrome Giannis, because I had been out of the hobby so long. I didn't know Topps Chrome was gone.
Right.
And I couldn't find anything. So I went to my local card shop, which I hadn't been to in a decade. I walked in and I was like, yeah, I want to buy a box of 2013 Topps Chrome. And the guy looked at me like I was an idiot. He's like, I think this is what you're looking for. Prizm. It was like $200 for a box or something stupid. And I was like, oh, that's too much. I'm not buying that. That's crazy. That's crazy dollars. And so Giannis is what brought me back in. So 3 origin stories: in, out, back in, and very much in full time now. Loving it.
Nice. That's amazing. 3 origin stories. Yeah. And I know you do more than actually just collect. Like us, you put out hobby content, which is insightful and provides value, I'm sure, for other collectors, ourselves included. So on that front, why did you want to get into the content creation side of the hobby?
Well, unlike you guys who are all in the same city, right, who have a lot in common, who get to talk about cards every day, you could probably go to lunch together, and you probably do regularly. Yeah. There's not a lot of available friends down here. I'm trying hard to make friends in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but there's just not a lot of people that collect cards. And those who do in Louisiana, they collect primarily the Saints, primarily the Astros. They love baseball down here. It's a big baseball state, football state. And I am I used to say 99.9. Now I'm like 99.0% basketball because I've started to dip into soccer, okay? Which is even more, outlandish and crazy in Louisiana because nobody gives a shit about soccer. But I don't have any friends. I can't make friends in the hobby. And so I created this YouTube channel to just kind of share my collecting journey. And that's the way it started, with mail days and just talking about cards that I have and that I want to have. And then it just kind of snowballed in. Apparently people like the, way that I click the record button and scream at the screen. And so I just kept doing it. And the subscribers grew. And, I started doing a little bit of research. I'm still audio visually helpless, right? Very helpless compared to you guys, but the content's solid and it's always transparent and truthful. And so really YouTube was just my outlet with the hobby and a way to make friends and just share my thoughts because I don't have people to do that with in person.
Yeah, very nice. When did you start your YouTube channel?
10 months ago. So mid-December, I think I started it, and I was like, I'm gonna do a video or two a week. I can get out a video or two. And then, man, and you guys have probably experienced this, it just got addictive and it just got fun. And I liked watching the channel grow, and I liked engaging and getting so much back and forth in the comments that was kind of my way of communicating with other people in this hobby. And so now I'm putting content out on my channel, Cajun Cardboard. I'm putting content out on Luca Nation Network. So I'm probably doing 7 to 10 videos a week on average. More than a video a day for sure. So I just come in crazy early before my workday starts and just hit the record button. I do very little preparation, as you can see. So I just hit it.
It's natural. It's natural.
Sometimes I talk too much, but
well, that was my next question, really. Like, with all the hobby content you put out weekly, and consistently, how do you find the time to do all of that? Especially being a real estate attorney, and you said you own a few other businesses, and then you also mentioned, just in passing, you just have 7 kids. That's it, right? How do you do? I have 2, and finding time for the hobby can be challenging at times for me. So I want to know your secret. What is it?
Well, look, it's a blessing and a curse. I tell everybody. First of all, I've married an angel. My wife for 25 years. She's very special. So I married her, and yes, all 7 are hers and mine together. And no, we didn't have any twins, so I didn't cheat. I did it one at a time. But man, look, it's a blessing and a curse. I can't turn it off, guys. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of the same qualities. I'll wake up at 3:45, and I'll have an idea in my head, and I'll be like, I got to talk about this. And then I'll bolt out the door. I try to devote my card and content time when I'm not daddy time. You know what I mean? Because, I'll be at all my kids' practices. And while I'm at their practice, watching them play soccer or whatever sport they're playing, baseball, I'll sit there on my little fold out lawn chair while the other people are talking to each other. I'll be pushing out content, posting pics of cards, watching you guys, following your channel, just listening, just filling my brain. So, I try not to, let that overtake, being a father and being a husband. But it's hard because it's hard to turn it off. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. If you're talking about this every night, like I am, you care so much about it. It's hard to turn it off.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why we do our podcast at 9:30, 10 at night. So when the kids are asleep, right?
Amen. Yeah. So you go the other way. You go after your day's done. I go before my day's done when my family is asleep. That's what I'm doing. So it's hard to turn it off, man. When you love something this much, it just never stops. But look, the way I look at it, and my wife agrees with me, there's worse vices in the world to have. I mean, there's no drugs, there's no drinking, there's no smoking, there's no cheating. It's just I just want to talk about cards.
Yeah,
just want to talk about cards.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. I love it. All right. So in one of our previous episodes, we talked a little bit about set collecting. And you've done it with one of the most iconic basketball card sets ever, which is, of course, the 1986 Fleer set that contains the iconic MJ rookie card. And you've done it multiple times, as we kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show. How did you even accomplish that? That's what I was thinking first. And was it difficult to track down some of the more rare graded cards in that set?
Yes, this is the tricky question. So the first best way to complete it is to take a time machine and go back to 2019, which is when I started putting it together. So maybe mid 2019 is when I started this. So pre-pandemic, pre-explosion, pre-crazy prices. To give you guys some perspective, and you guys know the Jordans, whatever, 180,000 to 200,000, somewhere in that range. Well, at the time that I started this set, I was like, man, I'm never going to be able to collect the set because the Jordan is $26,000. And I was like, I can't see myself ever paying $26,000 for a basketball card. I just can't see it happening. And I started collecting it anyway. I was on a Facebook group. It was a 1986 Fleer Facebook group. It's a fantastic group of guys, real passionate set collectors. They love that set. And somebody had 81 commons for sale, right? And so for those of you, listening who don't know, that set has 132 base cards and then 11 stickers. Well, one guy had 81, if I recall, PSA 10 commons for sale. I mean, true commons, right? No Johnny Moore, no rookies, no Hall of Fame rookies, no Barkley, Elijah, no Jordan, of course. And he wanted to sell them as a lot. And it was a very trusted seller who's always on the page. And I was like, if I do this, I know me and I know the way I am. If I buy these 81, I'm going, no matter how much that Jordan costs. So that was the day, man. I did the deal. The guy's name was Joe Zander. He's a phenomenal collector and a great dude. I'll never forget that night. I spent more money than I was comfortable with on a bunch of no-name dudes from this set. And the rest is history, guys. The rest is history. I was like, well, the way I looked at it, I was like, man, I'm over halfway done. Of course, I didn't have any of the Hall of Fame rookie cards. I didn't have the Kareem sticker or any sticker. Right. But at the time, it was just different, y'all. I mean, the Jordan was 26. The sticker was like, 7 or something stupid. So still a big commitment at the time. The money wasn't as free flowing and the demand wasn't there. And so that's what got me started. And of course, the Kareem stickers, the linchpin, man, that's the crazy card. It's a pop 15 now. It was pop 14 then. Wow. And, that's my story. That's how I started it. Now I completed it before The Last Dance. So I got that Kareem sticker just before The Last Dance.
Nice. Dang. That's a crazy story. Yeah, incredible. Where did you find most of them? Like you said, Facebook group, was that where you got most of the cards?
Facebook group is great. Look, let's be clear. Those cards are, for the most part, those cards are rare in PSA 10 condition, but they're not impossible. It's not like PMG greens. It's not like, it's not the rarest card in the world. Some of them are. Like the Kareem's a pop 15. All of the stickers are probably a shade below, except for the Jordan, are a shade below 100. So there's not a lot of them out there, but it's not impossible if you throw enough money at it. Really, the Kareem is the hard one. There's some really unique cards, like the Checklist PSA 10 at the time was like $5,000, and the Johnny Moore I paid $10,000, but that card got all the way up to 90, and now it's come all the way back down to like 25 or something like that. So that set has been on a wild ride. And, the best story about my set chase and subsequent sale is a sad one, is that, I turned down, I hate to say it, but I turned down almost $2 million for the set, man. I turned it down. I did. Lesson learned. I did. Swear to God. I had a soft offer for $2 million from a private buyer that a broker, put in my path, and I was like, man, this is my everything. This is the foundation of my collection. Like, people have cards that are their grails, right? We talk about that all the time. Yeah. This was why I was in the hobby. This is my favorite thing about my collection. So it was just hard for me to turn it down, and I ended up doing okay. I sold it for more when I sold it. I sold it through PWCC. I did better at the time I sold it than I would if I had it right now. So I feel mixed. Okay. It's kind of like kissing your sister. It's not the worst. It's not the best. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, that's a Louisiana joke for sure. That's up there in Toronto.
I appreciate the Southern humor. I get it.
That's right. So could have been worse. Could have been better, y'all.
Yeah, it's hard to time the peak, right? and that's what we've learned in the hobby for sure.
Do you know if that's the only PSA 10 set in existence, or are there more than?
No, there's more. There's more. Well, really? You want a great story? The guy that bought my Kareem called me 2 days before the PWCC Premier auction ended, introduced himself to me, and said, "Hey, my name is blah blah blah," and I'll keep him confidential because he's always requested that. I'm gonna win your Kareem sticker, and I was like, who the hell is this dude? You know, he had a
right.
Seattle, Washington area code. I'm like, who the hell is this guy calling his shot like Babe Ruth? And I was like, man, I'm glad to hear it. Now I just need to find one more person who thinks like you, and maybe I can really cash out. And sure enough, he won it. And he won damn near every other card that I had listed. He has 3 complete sets with stickers. Wow. He's got 21 Johnny Moore PSA 10s. And for those of you guys know, there's 76 of those in the world. He's got 21 of them. He's got 4 Kareem stickers out of the 15 in existence. And he's like the collector that I aspire to be. And so it was almost like an honor for me to pass my Kareem sticker down to him.
Sure.
And he's ended up being one of my very best friends in the hobby. And also he's the topic of another great story I have, because I almost completed the PMG Red set from 1997. Whoa. And he convinced me to sell my partial set to him as well. So he's kind of cashed me out of the 2 most important sets I've ever collected. Oh, but he's become one of my very best friends in the hobby in the process. So he's pretty cool. It's a good story too.
Yeah, for sure. Super collector, man. All right. I know when we're just emailing back and forth, you consider yourself half investor and half collector, much like all of us on this pod. But I'm curious, because I like to ask people this that are kind of like us, half investor, half collector types. There's been some blowback from pure hobby collectors who think, investor types are ruining the fun by essentially making card collecting into an expensive hobby. Just wanted to see, what do you think about that line of thinking?
Well, I've said this on my channel many times. I consider myself hybrid. I think if most people looked in the mirror and were honest with themselves, I don't think anybody ever buys cards with absolutely no consideration for what their future value would be. Like if I told you, hey, here's a card, Hyung, here's a card, you really want it, but I promise you 10 years from now, it's going to be worth 0. You're probably going to have second thoughts about buying that card, no matter how pure a collector you are. Right. So I think even the most pure collector, I'm going to take my cards to the grave, I'm going to, will my cards to my kids. I think even those guys care about how much they are paying for a card. Right. And I don't know if they'd be doing this if their cards didn't at least sustain value. Right. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you're right, man. There was this negative stigma that attached to investors. Now, there's all kinds of different types of investors. It's a big spectrum. You guys know this, right? There's the flippers that came into the hobby from some other places. Maybe it was sneakers. Maybe it was Beanie Babies. Maybe it was comic books, whatever. They smelled all the money. They came in. They wanted to buy low, sell high, and they wanted to do it, in 2 weeks, in 6 weeks or whatever. And it was okay. And you could do that. Those days are over. You've got to educate yourself now. You can make money in the hobby. You can invest and flip cards, but you can't do it in 8 days. And you can't just throw darts. You've got to know what you're doing and educate yourself. And so I think we've seen that short-term type of flipper come in and leave. I don't think those guys are here anymore. I think everybody that's left over after this bloodbath of the last 18 months at least has some collector part on their spectrum, right? I doubt there's many pure collectors. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm optimistic.
No, I think we're on the same page here. Yeah, I think
absolutely.
We agree for sure.
Yeah, like in a bear market, that's what you expect. All the flippers they can't make the money in their time frame that they're expecting to, and it ends up kind of going that way, which is good. There's good and bad from it. Obviously, the price corrections are hurting a lot of people, the people that kind of bought high, but there's with anything there's always opportunity, right? So
yeah. Yes. There's ways even in this horrible bear. I'm with you, man. I mean, it's not obviously top to bottom horrible, but for most segments of the hobby, it's pretty bad the last 18 months. I think that's fair to say. Mm-hmm. And there's still moves to be made where you can make great money. You just got to be real thoughtful, especially when it comes to which products, which parallels, things like that. We've seen that pendulum swing from these high pop commodity cards that are real easy to move, like stock certificates, right? Those days are over. So now people are looking for, they want to buy the cards that when somebody posts them on Instagram, and you guys put these up on 5 Card Guys all the time, people are like, what the hell is that? I like the way that looks. I've never even seen that. That's what I want, right? Those are the types of cards that people are posting now. And it doesn't need necessarily to be a 5-figure card. I mean, there's some $125, fill in the blank, Sean Kemp cards that I see, or, whatever, Griffey inserts from the 90s. I know you guys are big baseball fans that you see and you're like, damn, that's a good looking card. I don't even collect baseball, and you're making me want to go figure out where is that card from, what inserts. Those are the kind of cards that are inspiring passion, and I think they're proving to be pretty decent investments. The 90s is a good decade. For basketball, it's nuts. For baseball, it's not. I don't think it's quite where it's going. I'm not a baseball expert, and I'm not a football expert, but I think there's something to be said for 90s baseball and football inserts still playing catch up to basketball. Are y'all with me on that? I mean, y'all know a lot.
I could definitely see that. I definitely see it in the kind of like the mid to late 90s of like Griffey inserts. Those cards are sneaky. You get super rare Griffey card that ends up breaking records all the time, right? So yeah. Definitely see it. I could see the market catching up. The question is just when, I guess.
Yeah, it's when. It's and the other question is how much. And I ask this question all the time: how much sport crossover is there? Right. Basketball collectors. I live in the Jordan world. That's 75% of the value of my collection is in Michael Jordan. And in the Jordan world, his 90s cards are everything. Like, there's guys that I know that I'm very good friends with literally 8-figure collections who don't even have a Jordan rookie because it's just too high pop, right? Sure. They're like 320. I don't want 320. Give me the pop 4, So that they stub their nose at the 86 Fleer Jordan PSA 10. And so the question is, do those guys ever matriculate over into hockey, into baseball, into football? Yeah. How much cross-sport collecting is there? And will what's popular, in baseball, I know the paper cards are super popular, right? That's foreign to us in basketball because everybody wants, the shiny refractor inserts or the insert parallels and things from the 90s. Sure. So the question is, how much overlap is there going to be among sports? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting discussion to have for sure. I only have one question before we go to our lightning round. Actually, I'm going to throw it to Hyung and John as well before we go to our lightning round, if you don't mind. But the one question for me is, one of the reasons we wanted you on is that you're big into basketball. And with the season just a couple of weeks away, is there anyone you're high on as a card investor for this season in particular?
Well, I'll let Hyung and John go first. Y'all go first.
Okay. No, we're asking you the question. I have a question after this. I think that's what he was referring to.
Okay, fine. Damn it, fine. Make me go first. I was gonna steal your answer. Look, I don't call myself a super collector of very many players, but I would consider myself a super collector of Anthony Simons. And I don't want to be that dude that pumps and dumps because I've sold a lot and I bought a lot, but I was in on Anthony Simons with the Portland Trail Blazers from the jump when nobody knew who he was, nobody cared about the kid, and his cards were absolute pennies. And so I racked up about 2,500 of his rookie cards, individual rookie cards, not dollars, but individual rookie cards. So I've got a pretty sizable investment in him. I've cashed out some of it. I'm really high on him this year. I think this is the year where we see him playing next to Dame Lillard. Let's see if he takes that next step and kind of replaces CJ McCollum as that secondary scorer on that Blazers team. He just oozes so much potential. I'm super high on Anthony Simons. And again, I am not objective. I am extremely biased. So let listeners know, yes, I'm very biased. I've got more Simons than most. Kevin Porter Jr., also biased, but another guy that I'm crazy high on. Those two guys really come to mind. I think as far as guys from last year's rookie class, they're going to take the biggest jump. I see Cade going bonkers, man. I saw in the second half, and I don't own a single Cade Cunningham card. His price point was just too high coming out of the gates. I see Cade taking a massive step forward into one of the 20 to 25 best players in the league. He's put on a bunch of muscle. He's on a better team. They're still not relevant, but they're a better team. Sure. And I see him taking a massive step forward. I saw glimpses of Doncic-type potential in the second half of the season, right? It started to click. The game slowed down. He felt more in control of games. He let the game come to him. He got his teammates involved. I started to see that super high usage rate, big, strong lead guard who wear every single possession for the Detroit Pistons was dictated by Cade Cunningham. It was either him taking a shot, him creating a shot, maybe him turning it over, or him getting fouled. So his usage rate kind of jumped in that second half. I see a huge jump forward for Cade Cunningham this year.
Nice. I like it.
Good choice. The inside joke for us, if you want to know who we're high on, is
Trae Young.
Scotty Barnes, too, of course.
Y'all better damn well say Scotty Barnes. You better say Scotty Barnes. Young, you run out of town.
We love Scotty. He's our boy. But yeah, Trae Young. Do you have any idea why the hobby doesn't like Trae Young?
Well, here's the deal. His cards went up too fast. And that's not unique to Trae Young, right? But I think Trae Young is going to be inextricably linked to Luka Doncic for the entire rest of his career. Right. Same draft class, same position. They're both point guards theoretically. And then they were traded for each other, for God's sakes. And so he holds the fate of those two franchises are always going to be linked. Those players are always going to be linked. And they were both there. Doncic and Trae Young were both there at the hobby explosion. I mean, that was the absolute heart of the basketball explosion post-pandemic. And, he's always going to be compared to Luka Doncic. And for a while there, it was like Luka or Trae. And I don't think anybody can realistically look at those two players and put Trae in the same conversation anymore. Great player, absolutely great player. I think Luka's just transcendent, man. I just do. And so on those Trae cards, kind of trailed Luka. They both kind of went up into the right together. I just think the Trae cards are going to come down a little bit harder because all the problems with the Luka cards, with the high population and whatnot, those also apply to Trae Young.
Right.
But I just don't think he's ever going to be the player that Luka is. He just doesn't have the same, talent framework that Luka has. That's just my personal opinion. Still, great player, 10-time All-Star probably, All-Pro, all those things. But, man, Luka's a whole different breed.
Yeah, very fair.
That's a great take.
Hyung, you said you had a question for Brian?
No, this is probably more on the content creation side because we like to kind of bring it up, and especially in the hobby when we talk about Instagram and Facebook and how the more you're active, it's easier to make deals. In terms of content, obviously you have a YouTube channel and you're pumping out content. How has that, I guess, benefited you in terms of making deals, like having trusting deals that I guess benefits you because you are credible. People trust you. And that's kind of like what we've been talking about, and the importance of kind of like social media and how it ties into all of this.
It's definitely benefited me. I will tell you this. It led to me acquiring 2 of the 3 biggest cards in my entire collection. A watcher of my channel, a subscriber, and a frequent commenter put me in touch with a big individual selling some absolutely monster Jordan cards. And I had first look at them, and I got a deal date. And so I know you guys are experiencing the same thing. Y'all are bigger than I am, so I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing. The beauty of it is nobody needs to vet people like us because there's nowhere for us to hide, right? Like if Brian from Cajun Cardboard screws somebody over, I'm done, right? So
you're already there,
Not that we would anyway, right? I mean, we love the hobby, and if we're making content, we must really love the hobby. So there's nowhere for people like us to hide. I mean, if we do something wrong, we're going to hear about it. And so I think people know that. And when you listen to somebody talk for an hour, 7 times a week, 7 hours a week, at some point you almost feel like you get to know them. Like before we got on, I felt like I knew you guys better than a random stranger in the hobby. I listened to 25 hours of you guys talking.
That's awesome.
And so, I would feel comfortable doing a deal with you guys. I wouldn't ask for vouchers.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Y'all are the 5-card guys from Cards of the Moon. I don't need a vouch, right? I know who you guys are. And so I think people feel that way with me, or at least I hope they do. But I'm sure you guys experience the exact same thing. Deals have to come across the table for you guys that wouldn't ordinarily if you weren't doing the pod, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
100%.
No, that's why we say it, because we do use we encourage people to make content, go out there and kind of like get the content out there, get yourself out there, get involved with the community so people know you. It's a lot easier to make deals, and obviously you're taking it to the extreme in terms of you're pumping out content so a lot of people know you, right? So there's that broad spectrum that you could play, But social media for me, like, I think it's a great way to do deals, and the content creation definitely helps the credibility, right? So
Hyung, it's the first way to do a deal, because there's no eBay fees. There's I love PWCC. There's no PWCC fees. There's no golden fees.
Yeah.
You don't screw with taxes. You don't have to, all this stuff that, let's just get the deal done. And if you find that trusted seller, going back to my set deal, I sold that in a private deal, no questions asked. There was no questions asked. I knew who the guy was. I've seen his collection, and I knew from the jump, this is a big sale for me, but this is not really a big buy for him. And so I had no qualms, no concerns at all. And we talked about, my ability to buy cards and have access to certain cards because of the content that I produce, and people kind of reaching out to me, cards they want to sell to me. But it works the other way too with cards I'm trying to sell. And I really, to this day, I haven't done a video where I've said, these cards are for sale, like for sale videos.
Yeah, you're not pushing it. Yeah.
Right? But I've done PSA reveal videos where I'll have 215 cards, and at the end of the video, I'll say, really all but about 5 of these cards are for sale, right? They've been at PSA for like 7 years, and so they're all for sale except for like 5 of them for my PC. And you'd be surprised, man, how many people reach out. I posted on Instagram. I'm collecting the 2012 Prizm basketball base set in PSA 10. I posted a picture. I have a bunch of duplicates because I'm trying to put the set together. So I had tons of duplicates. I'm talking like probably 170 duplicate slabs.
Wow.
Posted a picture. I sold 135 slabs in about 4 hours. No questions asked. They didn't vouches, vetting. They knew who I was. They knew I had the cards because they'd seen me reveal them. And we got a deal done. And of course, my price was pretty attractive because I was selling them in bulk. But deal done, man. It's just easy when you have a bunch of followers and a bunch of viewers to get stuff done.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a great point of discussion. I'm glad you brought that up because I come from a news background, journalism background, and newsrooms we're very combative. We're very competitive, but that's what I love about the hobby. Just like you're reaching out to me, Brian, and vice versa. We're always encouraging one another to promote each other's content, and we just that's how we get to know each other really through this content as well.
I don't know if you're supposed to promote other people's content, but I do it all the time. I mean, guys like you, I don't know if you've listened to Rob, the sports card therapist. That's how I got affiliated with the Luca Nation Network and Andrew and Cage and those guys. And you guys, like, if I see something that I like, whether it's a product, a platform, a sales data company, another content creator, I just tell people the truth. I think this is really good. You guys should check it out. I like it. Maybe you'll like it. That's the way I've always kind of done the hobby. I never tell people what to do, but I tell people what I do and what I like to do and let them figure it out for themselves. Maybe it's not the right fit for them, but I never have a problem promoting other content creators. There's some good ones out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Johnny, you got a question?
Yeah, Brian, I got to ask. Favorite PC card or a PC card that comes with a cool story?
Well, favorite PC card. This is my I'm taking it to the grave collector story. The last card I'd ever sell in my collection is my 1997 PMG Red Jordan. So that's the centerpiece of my collection. It's the best card that I have. It's the most valuable card that I have. It's the card that I like the most. It's the card that means the most. And the funny thing was I won it during an auction, and I was away on one of my kids' soccer trips, and I was asleep. Woke up the next morning, I was like, oh, I guess I won it. So one of those deals where, when you're comfortable with the price, sometimes you just set it and let it ride. And if I get it, I get it. And if I don't, I don't. And I woke up the next morning at the hotel, went down to get my coffee, checked my phone. It's like, congratulations, you won a really big card. So that PMG Reds was number one. So for sure. Wow. Most of my biggest cards are all Jordans. So there's a lot of them that mean a lot to me for sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's a big card. Nice. All right. We really had fun just catching up with you, Brian, and just, learning more about you as a collector, as a hobbyist. What we like to do with our guests to end off our interview is just a quick lightning round of questions, if you're up to it.
Of course.
Awesome. All right. So actually, number one, you've already answered. It was, what's the most valuable card you currently own? I guess it's a red PMG. Is there a card, I'm going to just kind of rephrase it this time. Is there a card that you absolutely love that's, financially not worth that much, but you just love it anyway?
Yeah, and it's funny because this is not going to be lightning. Is it okay if I take a 30 seconds?
Yeah.
I told you all the first card show I ever went to was the National in Atlantic City, And I had maybe 30 days before the National, I just started collecting Damian Lillard. And I wanted an active player who I liked on and off the court, who had a little bit of tread left on the tire, still had some career left, who was very affordable. And I wanted somebody who was playing now, because I spent so much time with Jordan and LeBron and cards in the 90s that I hadn't collected any ultra modern stuff, and I just wanted to get to learn it better. So I started a Damian Lillard collection. Well, when I got to the National, I saw Riverfront Collectibles. I don't know if you know Dave Owens. So I saw him very early on. I think it was like I got up there on Thursday, and on Thursday I saw a 2013 Prizm Gold Damian Lillard BGS 10. And I think it's a pop 2 or 3. And when I saw it, I was scared to ask. I was like, Dave, how much? And he gave me the number, and I was like, deal. I didn't haggle, I didn't bargain. I was like, that's the card I want. 2013 Prizm is my favorite year of basketball Prizm. So I picked that one up. That card means a lot to me. It's not the most valuable card. It's definitely not the most valuable card, but that card does mean something to me because super crazy low pop. And I don't have a lot of gold Prizm cards, and I'm not a lot of gold Prizm cards in BGS 10 labels. So that one does mean something.
It's a nice card. Yeah, beauty. All right, question number 2. Everyone is expecting Fanatics to be bought out by Panini America any second now. What's your initial thoughts if that happens?
Yeah, you mean Fanatics buying Panini? Yes. My thoughts are, and I did a great video on this. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was like, what are the things that I hope Panini, that Fanatics does when they do acquire or when they do take over for Panini. And I think all of it for me stems to transparency regarding print runs. I want to know how many of every single card is printed. We know there's, I know it's different in baseball, football, and hockey, but like in basketball, we know orange is 49. We know gold is 10. We know black is 1 of 1. We know red is, 299, blue's 199. But I don't know how many base were printed. I want to know how many base were printed. I want to know how many insert base were printed. I want to know how many of every single card was printed. And I think the hobby has a right to know. I think the reason we don't know is because the manufacturers don't want us to know because it's a scary number. But I think that's kind of, like not telling your kids about Santa. You don't want them to know the truth from themselves, But I think we can handle the truth, like Jack Nicholson said. But, I'd like to know how many are out there on everything. Let us make our own decisions. And so by doing that, I think that would solve a lot of the other problems. And then we can get away from sticker autos, right? Then we can get away from non-game worn patches. Then we can get away from 35, and there's probably more baseball than basketball, 35 basketball products every year or 40 or whatever it is. I don't know. Let's get back to 12, man. Let's get back to 1 a month to where every product means something. I don't need Chronicles. I don't need Recon. Baseball seems to me like they have more than basketball. Is that crazy? I don't know anything about baseball. Do they have more?
Basketball actually might have more, believe it or not.
Probably pretty close.
It's pretty close, But basketball obviously has less players,
It's just too much to me, And then within those products, there's like I saw something the other day where like there's a basketball player and he's a 2021 rookie. He's got over 1,000 1 of 1 cards. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. There's 1,000 unique 1 of 1s of 1 rookie. That is stupid.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
It ceases to be a 1 of 1 when there's 1,000 options to choose from. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
They got to curb it. They got to stop it. And everybody's saying the same thing. I'm not saying anything that's novel or unique. I mean, if they're listening and they've got their ear to the ground, they're going to know what collectors want, what investors want. I mean, even investors don't want all these cards, right? It's devaluing the product. So more is not always better. In fact, more is definitely worse, for sure.
All right. Love it. Awesome. Brian, you start that petition up against Fanatics, and I'll be the first to sign.
Fair enough. Well, I'm not going to get Fanatics as a sponsor of my channel if I do that, so I don't know.
As content
business decisions.
Yeah, it's true. As content creators, we got to rethink all this. Okay?
That's right.
All right. Next question. We actually had this discussion. I think it was in last week's episode. What are your thoughts on Zion Williamson and his rookie cards going into the season? His rookie card values.
Well, I'll tell you right now, from a transparency standpoint, when I own a billion of a card, I'll tell you. And when I own 0, I'll tell you. I own 0. I don't own a single Zion Williamson card. Not one in my collection. and I live 50 miles away from New Orleans. So I love the kid. I hope he succeeds because I'd like to go down and watch 10 or 12 games. I mean, I'm jealous of you guys. You guys get to watch an NBA team, and I get to go watch this G League Pelicans team, who's missing their best player. So it's really, I'd like to see Brandon Ingram play next to Zion Williamson for a bunch of games in one season, please. Can I please have an elite NBA team in my state and save the franchise, for God's sakes? I mean, Zion's really – he's the lifeblood of this franchise. If this goes south and Zion bails, which is good he extended, but if he bails or if he fails, from an injury standpoint, I worry about the future of this Pelicans franchise. I like him. From a card perspective, there's just so many, man. There's just so many. Like, the reason I own 0 is when he came out of the gates, his cards were just so freaking expensive, man. So, for that reason, I'm on the sidelines from a card collecting standpoint, hoping that he succeeds and hoping that the kid stays healthy because he's unique. He does things no other human on earth has ever done, who's shaped like that, at least. He's unique, man. I mean, you got to admit. I mean, just like Giannis is a freak, Zion is equally as freakish. I mean, dudes that weigh that much shouldn't change directions or get off the ground that quickly, and he does. He does it. People compare him to Barkley, but dude, he's different than Barkley. I mean, he's a lot bouncier than Charles Barkley was.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brian, on your opinion your opinion on Zion for sure. All right, question 4: What's one thing about creating hobby content that you don't like to do? For people that are aspiring to create content, it's not always roses. Doing podcasts, doing video content. Just for speaking of transparency.
Man, I don't like responding to haters.
Good one.
I end every single video with keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace. And I do a pretty good job of staying positive. Sometimes I mumble under my breath off camera when I get, the occasional stray, bullet content, comment to my channel where somebody doesn't like what I say. But that's it. It's just the occasion. It's like 1 out of 1,000, man. And I'm sure you guys get the same thing. It's literally when you got that many people listening to you, and it's no coincidence that the bigger our channels get and our pods get, there's a few more that trickle in. And I don't like to block people. I've probably blocked, I got 1,700 subscribers. I've blocked 2, who are just, it's like, you're out of line. It's just not okay. It's classless. And so I'll block them. I don't like that. And I remember those comments more than I remember the 99% good comments, and I don't know if y'all are the same way, but that's the one thing that I don't like about content creation, but I know it comes with it. And,
for sure.
Get worse probably. At some point I'll slip and say somebody's a terrible player and I'll get another one,
You've made it when you have haters.
Yeah, I guess. Whatever, man. Yeah.
That's what we say.
I'm a small fish in a small pond. I don't know what y'all are talking about. This ain't Toronto, man. This is Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Fair point there. All right. Last question. We always end our quote unquote lightning rounds with this, but because we are from Canada, we always end this round with a Canadian centric question. So, and I know you're into basketball, so the question really is, how do you think Scotty Barnes will follow up his Rookie of the Year season?
I talked about this because I've been doing a lot more fantasy basketball content, guys. And I'll tell you, this Dynasty League that I was telling you about, I've been in this Dynasty Fantasy Basketball League for almost 25 years. Scotty Barnes is on my team. I drafted him as a rookie, so I'm super excited. I love him. I love everything about him. I see a little Kawhi to his game, right? I think he might even be a little bit longer, but I see a little bit of Kawhi to his game. I see a little bit of Giannis, not quite as freakishly insect looking, but something like that and doing some of the same things. The biggest question mark about Scotty Barnes is how proficient does he become as a three-point shooter? That's it. It's where does he take that next step? Usually you see these elite. He's elite, man. He's going to be an all-star. There's no question about that. He's Rookie of the Year for a reason. He's going to be an all-star. The question is he a franchise guy that can lead his franchise to a title? There's not very many of those guys, right? There's really not very many of those guys. He's a clear-cut all-star. He's a clear-cut fringe all-NBA player at one point. I think he's the best player on Toronto this year. I think this year he takes that mantle. I think Van Vliet will very willingly hand that over, and I think Siakam was kind of in the picture. he's just more talented than Siakam, man. From a skill standpoint, he just is. Siakam's got a great motor. But Scotty Barnes is the class of that franchise. I don't know if you guys agree. I might have just lost you.
But do you like his card prices?
I'll be honest, I haven't looked because I live in this weird world where I'm collecting 90 stuff, and then Lillard's really the only ultra modern guy that I collect. I haven't looked. If I was gonna mess with Scotty Barnes, it would be in the NT RPA or the Gold Prizm range. And I don't know if I personally could ever pull the trigger on that, because when I look at cards that are probably $15,000, I think about what I could buy in the Michael Jordan world with that $15,000. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's just the way I'm built. I wouldn't be able to tell you the first thing about Scotty Barnes basketball cards. Scotty Barnes, the player, I've watched a lot, and he's not your typical second-year player. He's going to take a big step forward. I really think so. Yeah. Nice. The question is Fred VanVleet going to eat his way out of the league? When is that guy going to get in the weight room and start lifting and get on the treadmill? I mean, damn, man, they need him. What do y'all think about Malachi Flynn? I like him.
He's got potential for sure.
He's nice. I mean, yeah, he's inconsistent, but in those summer league games, he plays amazing.
Yeah, I know. I think he just doesn't quite have that true green light. You know, I think he needs that. Like Anthony Simon's in the same kind of boat. He's like, am I allowed to shoot? Am I the man? Am I not the man?
Right.
Malachi Flynn's not on that level talent-wise, but I think he's the next in that lineage of point guards. You know, Lowry, VanVleet, Malachi Flynn, little undersized guards, super good IQ. You know, they can score. They got a little shifty game. I don't know. We'll see. You know, he's a nice low-end option. You know, if you really want to take a flyer on a super cheap prospect, you know, he's an option. So I don't know. I think Toronto's stuck in purgatory, though, man. They're going to be good, but not great. And sometimes in the NBA, that's the worst place to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially this year, because while I'm recording with you guys, I've got my TV recording right over here. Victor Wembanyama's playing tonight, and that's what this season's about for a lot of teams.
Yeah, for sure.
The Spurs and the Jazz are fighting to see who can be the worst team.
Just tanking,
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a storyline for your fantasy league too, because that's the storyline in my fantasy league.
Yeah, in a dynasty league, let me tell you,
100%.
Fighting for those ping pong balls. Yeah, for sure. Unique, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he looks special.
All right, Brian, really appreciate your time. And I always joke the last question is always Canadian centric, and if the guest answers positively to that question, we invite them back. Yeah, that's what determines. If you're anti Scotty Barnes,
I got so much more great stuff. I could talk about Vince Carter. I could talk about T-Mac. I could talk about Nick Nurse and what a kind, pleasant human being he is. I could do everything. If that's all it takes, man, I'm gonna be on here every week.
I love it. All right.
No, definitely appreciate your energy, man. Like I think that's a big reason why you're successful in the area, and just keep it up, because it's positive vibes for the hobby, and we appreciate that 100%. So
I appreciate it. I love making new friends in the hobby. I made 3 new ones tonight, man. It's just we're just adding to it. So yeah, anything you guys ever need in Louisiana, I know it's unlikely that you'll ever be down here, but you got a place to stay. I'll show you around if you come down here. I'm gonna have to get a translator. Awesome. Y'all aren't gonna speak the way they speak around here, so you're gonna need somebody to help you understand what people are saying. But you've got a place down here if y'all are ever swinging through.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Brian.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, we're back. Thanks again to Brian, aka Cajun Cardboard, for joining us on the pod and sharing his hobby journey with us. I'm sure we'll be keeping in touch with him. And if you want to see Cajun Cardboard, we'll put the links to his social media channels in our show notes below. All right. So with that, let's move on to our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And if you're new to the podcast, this is when the 3 of us picks out 2 cards, 2 sets, 2 players, and then we each debate which one we would rather invest in. All right. So as usual, let's have Hyung lead off.
Awesome. So as you guys know, Judge hit number 62.
Woo-hoo!
And Clark, you're just fist pumping right now.
I bet Clark, you're getting a bit nervous.
I was actually. I'm like, how many more games left?
So with all the discussion on whether the 62 is legit or not, because it really doesn't break any records, the thought of PEDs popped into my mind again. So I'm following up with Fernando Tatis Jr. because his price is just tumbling,
tanking,
tumbling. And his 2016 Bowman Chrome Refractor Auto, right? So it's his Grail card, Refractor Auto, number to 499. A BGS 9.5 sold for 1563. Okay, so a Refractor Auto BGS 9.5. It was a min gem. So I'm gonna pair that up with our hometown boy, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Same card, same year, 2016 Bowman Chrome. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Refractor Auto BGS 9.5. It sold for 2,000. So long gone are the days when Tatis outsold Guerrero. It's about a 25% markup from Tatis's price. Who are you buying and why?
Man, that was the price of that's like the price of the bait, like a BGS 9 base from like a year ago. That's insane.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that I paid 1,800 Canadian for a BGS 9 base last year around this time.
Right. Really risky. As much as I want a Vladdy, I'm picking Tatis. I'm on the firm belief that this, as much as people paint this to be something horrible, and it is, certainly like a dark stroke in Tatis's career, and perhaps this is gonna thwart him from being in the Hall of Fame. But I think it'll kind of be forgotten. I truly believe it's going to kind of be forgotten. I think what I said before about the narrative around Tatis and him getting caught, nobody really said he was a cheater. Most people, when they get caught, the first thing that comes out is, oh, look at it, he's such a cheater. This is why he was hitting X number of home runs, or this is why he was pitching so amazing. What a freaking cheater. But there's none of that. Right? It was all kind of, oh man, I'm really disappointed. I'm sad. And it's because everybody likes Tatis. That's how much people like Tatis. So they didn't paint him as a cheater. So I think Tatis, it'll take some time. It's not like it's going to be 10x overnight when he comes back. But I think he should win over fans pretty easily over the next couple of years. I'm probably going to start doubling down on some Tatis stuff. So it's Tatis for me.
Yeah, this is a hard one actually, because I have both of the base ones, right? Mm-hmm. And I got Tatis because it just dropped so low that I couldn't just let it go. So I guess by my actions, I'm going to go with Tatis as well, because it's a bigger dip and I see the potential for it to rise even mm-hmm. back to where it was. If he hits a 40 plus home run season, it probably won't be next year because he still has his suspension to
that's
wait
right.
on. So that's one thing to consider, right? He'll probably he'll 30 if he has a good year, right. But then people just see the final numbers. So yeah, I'm going with Tatis.
Interesting, and I did this purposely, and it's crazy because I'm a Tatis buyer too at this price, compared to the $2,000 price point for Vladdy. Even though Vladdy's doing something about it, is like I see more the volatility and how low it's going, and how iconic that card was. Vladdy's was too as well, but it just shows you that all three of us all agree that it's going to blow away, kind of, right? And maybe we're wrong, but I think it's a buy period for Tatis on some of his cards where it's starting to dip, and obviously some of the more rare cards. But I'm gonna go for 1,500 a refractor auto.
That's insane.
That thing could triple easily if done right, right? So yeah, it's gonna be a sweep, but I actually expected you guys, because it just shows you but it just shows you people in general aren't really affected by it more so than everybody thinks, right? I look at comments too, and it's just like, it's gonna blow away. It's not that big of a deal and whatnot. But that's a different discussion. But that's interesting. It's a Tatis sweep.
And keep in mind, I think Tatis cards being so low right now and not necessarily moving or bouncing back. To me, I don't think it's necessarily an indication of the entire market thinking Tatis is a bust. I just think savvy investors or people looking to buy Tatis, they know there's time, right? So there's no point of like buying it right now or buying it next month. There's going to be time, like Clark said.
Use your cash.
Like Clark said, yeah, he's still going to miss 35 games next year, whatever he's going to miss.
So why didn't you pick Vladdy?
So that's a good point. I was actually gonna bring that up because like there is a point to picking Vladdy, because I think for Tatis it's not necessarily buy like right now because there's no real rush. I don't think his price is really gonna move for a while. So if you're in the flip game, you could certainly use that $1,500 towards something else for the time being until 8 months from now or wherever the timing is for you to start getting it.
Like Reebok sneakers.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that too. If you're gonna try to flip for next season, maybe Vladdy's the safer play. But for me, I'm holding these for a little while longer at least.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, boys. So we're gonna go PSA 10 versus PSA 9 with an IP auto. And I'm sure there's a wide spectrum of, this could be a bit of a loaded comparison, but let's just say in general, PSA 10 of a card versus PSA 9 with an IP auto. And for those that don't know, IP is in person, like that's what it stands for, right? In person, did I have that correct?
Yeah, in person auto.
Where the athlete signs, manually signs.
So it's not issued by the manufacturer of Topps, where they certify that it is. You would have to get it third party authenticated by obviously PSA in this case. But Clark, you could go ahead on this one first.
All right. I know when we first started getting back into the hobby, like Hyung and I had these discussions about the value of in-person autos. I wasn't a huge fan, but it's kind of grown on me over the years. And I like them now on certain players like Trout or Griffey, the ones that didn't have a lot of autographed cards when they were first rookies. But I like them only if it's a PSA 10. So I see where you're trying to go with this. Like it's a good 1v1, but I'm not falling for it. I'm going all the way PSA 10 over the PSA 9 with the IP auto, because I also think that there's more of a market for PSA 10 cards as a player. You know what I mean? Like IP autos, like it's not for everyone. Yeah. So PSA 10 for me.
I hate that they have these in-person sessions that, like, for instance, J-Rod's relatively new. He's young. And then they would have these signing sessions with J-Rod that you could bring whatever card you want. It costs X amount of money for a card. It costs an upcharge for, like, inscription. And to me, it kills the market a bit, because you see so many of these in-person auto cards that people just try to take a base card and then get it signed and like try to flip it, and then it floods the market, right? So I get it with Trout, because like he doesn't really sign cards anymore, and it's on a Topps update. So there is a point of probably the older the auto or the player, the more likely I'm to say PSA 9 with an in-person auto. But if we're talking modern, I'm going to go PSA 10. Just because, the resale value, it's probably going to be a lot easier to liquidate when you want to and when you need to. PSA 9 with the IP auto will be difficult to liquidate and probably get the money you're expecting that you're getting, because like Clark said, there's people that just don't like it, right? So on ultra modern, I'm going to say PSA 10, but it's obviously going to be dependent on kind of like the card. If it was a Trout or Griffey upper deck, if it was Griffey upper deck in a heartbeat, I would go Griffey, right? Yeah.
Interesting. I wasn't really sure what I was expecting here, but it's going to be a sweep. I thought about it for a bit, and I think the three of us understand that IP autos are certainly underrated. And I think there is a lot of room for IP autos to grow in the future. Come on, because I mean, like, let's face it. Like, as a collector, you have an autograph on card of said player or favorite player, encased in PSA 9, which is mint. That's pretty awesome as a collector. That's let's call a spade a spade. I think that's a pretty neat thing to have. But yeah, I think the market that we're in right now, and even as a collector, you guys know me, I'm kind of a fickle collector. So if I'm kind of collecting, not necessarily something that's a PC that or has a story behind it that's meaningful to me that I got as a kid, if it's something that I'm purchasing for the collection, you know me, I like that 10, man. I don't want to see the 9. So I think if there's a 50-50 coin flip here, that wins over. So PSA 10 for me too.
All right, 2 sweeps. All right, I like that one though. Okay, let's see what happens with this last one. One side you got Cade Cunningham National Treasures, number to 99, of course. RPA, PSA 8, last sold for about $13K, just under. Or the Cade Cunningham Blue Prizm rookie card, color match. The blue Prizms are numbered to 199, of course. PSA 10s, 3 of those for about the same amount, just under
3 of them. You get 3 of them.
You get 3.
National Treasures.
Pop 4 right now.
What's the National Treasures out of? 99.
Yeah.
Let me just.
The classic RPA.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Is it a horizontal card? The NT,
no.
do you know if no? It's the vertical one, right?
Yep.
Oh man, 3 of them, eh? I thought you meant 1, but I guess times 3. You know what? I'm gonna go the blue Prizm times 3. I like the National Treasures obviously better. It's the better card. PSA, even though it's a PSA, it's still a good card. You know, it's tough to get, that card in anything higher, a good grade, period, right? That's why you see so many authentic auto 10s in that. But I just like blue Prizms are really nice. And you could liquidate them, you don't have to sell them all off in one go. You kind of, sell one and then hold one. There's different options, right? And you got the color match, right? So for me, it's a great card. The Prizm blue to 199, and you get 3 of them. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Dang.
Yep.
NT National Treasures all the way. Easy choice for me. I think number 1 is National Treasures. I think if Cade, like Cajun Cardboard was mentioning, he thinks Cade is going to have a big season. I'm generally in agreement, and I think a lot of the basketball population out there, viewers, would probably agree. And I think to have the Grail card of Cade Cunningham, like that's the move right there. And I think, we talked about this before. Moving forward, this sort of like ultra modern space, we don't know what's going to happen, right? Like we don't know. Like Select is already almost down the gutter. All these different, parallels coming out. Who knows if Prizm will be king? We're assuming it will. Who knows if Prizm parallels will still be that ultimately desired? We assume it will, but I think something like National Treasures is protected against this whole ultra modern question, weird space that we're in of like kind of like junk slab. Is it trash? I honestly think National Treasures it's in its own class of collecting and stratosphere for players. Like this is it. NT is it. And PSA 8, great grade. Yeah, it's all the way around easy pick for me. I think it's also protected from all this ultra modern nonsense. So yeah, NT.
Okay. I'm going with NT as well, actually, because you just made the point that Brian thinks, like there's a lot of potential with Cade. So if Cade Cunningham has like the career that we think he could have, the NT is just going to go through the roof. That's off to Golden to sell. So I agree the blue Prizm is easier to liquidate for sure. But I guess this really comes to a question of if you really believe in the potential of Cade. End of story. So I think I'm high on Cade as well. So yeah, I'm going to go with the NT. And like you said, it's hard to get good grades of NTs, RPAs. PSA 8 is pretty good actually, relatively speaking. So, yeah. All right. that ends our pick one. Again, we want to thank Brian as our guest of this episode, and look at our show notes if you want to get in touch with his content. It's consistent. You're going to see new videos every day with Cajun Cardboard. And again, we'd like to always thank our subscribers and listeners, for always tuning in week after week. And we can't wait to have a new episode next week. We'll see you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.